I was dispatched to a structure fire, a disturbance call, and a request for an ambulance at the same address. Multiple calls on this incident. I arrived on the scene and found a crowd of people holding down a violent naked man, screaming at the top of his lungs, an elderly woman struck multiple times in the head with a hammer in a fully engulfed house, with fire rolling out the windows. I'm thinking, what the fuck? I was able to quickly determine the naked man was the elderly lady's son. He had attacked her with a hammer and set the house on fire as well. She was a lay pastor in one of the rural churches, and he'd become a Satanist while in prison. Handcuffed the wild naked guy and had the neighbors hold him down until additional units arrived. I began administering life-saving care to the woman. She had multiple depressed skull fractures and one eye laying on her cheek. The structure was a loss. The woman was sent to intensive care. The naked guy was scary. He was talking in two voices at the same time. I had him in the back of the police car and I knew he was alone. I'm hearing two voices speaking at the same time. He would cry out for God to save him. And another deep evil sounding voice would tell him to shut up, you weakling. I own your soul. The naked guy would scream out in remorse and the evil voice kept telling him the deal was done. This arguing continued back and forth, and as the man would call out to be saved, the voice would laugh. I truly believed that I had evil itself in handcuffs. The suspect later hung himself while in prison. I'm sitting here writing this and the hair on my neck and arms is standing straight up. You can believe it or not, but I swear it's true. I've been to more suicides and sudden deaths than I can remember, but one has always stood out. It was a lady who had hanged herself. It wasn't particularly gruesome. She was discovered very quickly, and she had obviously done her homework as it appeared to have been effective and quick. The reason it was so memorable was because of where she did it. As I say, she had done her homework and had made a proper noose which she had firmly secured to the rafters in the attic of her home. She had stepped through the attic hatch, which had the effect of acting as a gallows drop. The hatch to the attic was situated at the top of a flight of stairs, so for us as the attending officers, the only way to get to her was to walk up the fairly narrow and dark stairs to the top, where she was effectively standing over us, where we had to gently move her to one side in order to get onto the landing. The power to the dwelling was cut, so the only light available to us was via a bedroom window which was situated directly behind her with the door open, such that she was silhouetted to us and seemingly looking down with glazed eyes. I've been to deaths over the years which were far more gruesome, but there was something psychologically unnerving on a primeval level about having to climb your way up restricted access to a deceased person who has stood in a dominant position over you. Rationally, the apprehension was purely down to perception. Nonetheless, everyone there physically relaxed once we were able to cut her down and rest her on the ground. I had seen a lot of strange things in my time as a police officer, but nothing could have prepared me for what I saw on that eerie, moonlit night. I was on patrol in an old, abandoned part of town, driving slowly through the deserted streets. As I turned a corner, my headlights illuminated a figure standing in the middle of the road. It was a woman, dressed in a long, flowing gown, with hair that appeared to be floating around her head. At first, I thought it was just a prank, a Halloween costume, or someone who had wandered out of a nearby party. But as I got closer, I realized that something wasn't right. Her skin was pale and translucent, and she appeared to be floating above the ground. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I brought my car to a stop. I reached for my radio to call for backup, but before I could even touch it, the figure turned and vanished into thin air. I sat there in stunned silence, my heart pounding in my chest. Had I really just seen a ghost? I knew that I had to investigate, even though every instinct in my body was screaming at me to run. I stepped out of my car and slowly made my way down the road, my flashlight at the ready. As I approached the spot where I had seen the ghost, a chill ran down my spine. The air felt colder, and I could hear strange whispers in the wind. Suddenly, I saw her again. The ghostly figure appeared out of nowhere, floating in the air right in front of me. She reached out her hand, as if beckoning me to follow her. I knew that I should be afraid, that I should run as fast as I could in the opposite direction. But something inside me made me want to follow her. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, reaching out to touch her hand. But just as I was about to make contact, she vanished once again, leaving me standing there alone in the darkness. I got back into my car and drove away, feeling shaken and unnerved. I knew that I had seen something that defied explanation, something that would haunt me for the rest of my life. But I also knew that I had survived, and that sometimes, in this job, that's the best you can hope for.